Let's begin with the birthing through hypnosis techniques for the first stage of labor, which, as we've covered in these prior videos, is the opening phase of labor, where your cervix goes from being closed, holding baby in for 9 months, to wide open, ready to start pushing. So that is, for most women, the majority of labor. So I'm going to teach you position and breath for this first stage. And first, we're going to go over what they are, and then we'll talk about why. So the first thing I want to talk about is the breath. And this breath, I would encourage you to do from the time that you realize you're in labor and you need to do something to get through it. So that's how I think of the beginning of labor. If you can keep doing the dishes, if you can roll over and go back to sleep, if you can keep walking and talking, you're not in labor. Don't even count it. Doesn't matter. As soon as you need to stop what you're doing to focus on your contractions, that's when you need a technique. So up until then, just go about your business. Once you need a technique, this is the thing that I would encourage you to do all the way up until the point where your caregiver tells you that you are fully dilated, which we will talk about next. So in this part of labor, you're going to have contractions that range between possibly 30 and 90 seconds. And you will do this breath for the entirety of that 30 to 90 seconds. So this breath is called the balloon breath. And basically, as if your belly doesn't already look like enough of a balloon, you're going to make it even more so a balloon. So what you're going to do with this breath is inhale any which way you want. You can inhale through your nose, you can inhale through your mouth. It really doesn't matter. But as you're inhaling, you're going to be pushing your belly button away from your spine. So everything in my body is relaxed except for my abdominal muscles. My abdominal muscles are expanding. So they are moving outward, right? Away from my spine. So the thing that I want you to imagine as you do this is that you're inhaling, 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 right? Pushing your belly button away from your spine, relaxing everywhere else. And you're going to inhale right up to that edge where if you inhaled any more, you would have to tense up. So you can feel it when you start inhaling, right? There's a point where if I try to get any more, I have to kind of work to do it. We don't want to go there. We want to stay limp and loose and relaxed. So you're pushing your belly button away from your spine. Inhale, inhale, inhale until you get to that place where you would have to tense up. And that's where you start your exhale. And your exhale is loose and limp and relaxed. You just let it go. And then when you get to the edge of that place where you need to inhale again, then you do it again. So it's a nice, slow, big breath, making your belly even more of a balloon than it already is. And then releasing it as many times as you need to get through the entire contraction. So there is another video that is just for practice for this breath. Don't look at it now because I want to give you a little bit more context. But that video will be really helpful for practice. And you can turn it on and just allow yourself to get into the positions that are described in it and be able to practice. And I super encourage you to practice between now and when you go into labor. It really can help you get very comfortable, like viscerally comfortable, that you know what you're going to do during contractions. So the second thing I want to talk about is positions, because you're going to practice this breath in positions, and these positions are designed for this first stage of labor. So the positions that you're going to think about are any position that helps your belly to hang off of your spine. So that could mean just sitting where you are and leaning forward. You could be on a birth ball leaning forward. If you lean back on a birth ball, you'd fall off. So any birth ball sitting that you do, you'd be leaning forward. You could be on your hands and knees, is a fabulous position for getting your baby to hang off of your spine. You could be in a leapfrog position or a child's pose position, which is basically you've been on your hands and knees and then you sit back on your heels. That kind of position is a beautiful position for having your belly hang off of your spine. You could be lying on your side and leaning forward a little bit, which is probably how you're sleeping. Just again, that gentle letting gravity pull your baby off of your spine. You could stand and lean on something, lean on a counter, lean in a doorway, move your hips around, right? You could be in almost any position in water, since you're not going to be contending with gravity in the same way in water. And one of the things to think about with position is that you're going to change them. You're going to change positions. You're going to stick with that balloon breath, but you're going to do it in different positions over the course of maybe even one contraction, but certainly over many, because staying rigid in the same exact position gets uncomfortable pretty quick, even in regular life. So most mamas find it really helpful in labor to be able to move and shift position, just like, crossing your legs feels good for a little while, and then you need to cross them the other way, right? We can't stay fixed in one place. So, which makes me think back to my poor mom, who was told to lie on her back and be quiet. And she was left by herself when she was laboring. So no wonder she had such a hard time. There was no way that she could manage any discomfort being still like that. So this balloon breath and these positions, any position you can think of where your belly is hanging off of your spine, using gravity to do that, are for the first stage. And I want to explain to you why. Because any childbirth class that you come across, you're going to learn some kind of breath, you're going to learn some kind of positions, and then ask yourself, why? Why am I doing this, right? Why? I know that I've studied lots of different things around childbirth over the years, because I've had 3 babies and because I'm super interested in it. And often there would be no explanation, right? For why am I doing you're like, well, I don't understand why I'm doing this. And so I would just forget it, right? But if I understand why I'm doing something, then I'm sold, right? Then I have a context and I can remember it. So I want you to understand why. So the first reason is that part of the discomfort of labor is that your strongest muscle in your body, your uterus, is basically pulling your baby. It's contracting, and your baby is ending up getting pushed up against the inside of your spine. Ouch, right? That's intense. So by just shifting, right, from laying on your back, where it's going to, not only is your uterus pulling your baby in, but gravity is doing the same. By flipping that over and letting gravity give you millimeters even, right? That makes you more comfortable. And then when you add the balloon breath to that, you just get a little bit more space, just a centimeter, right? Just a little bit more space makes an incredible amount of difference in the amount of discomfort that you may be experiencing in your labor. So you've got the position, number 1, that will pull the baby off of your spine. You've got your balloon breath, number 2, that will give you even more space getting your baby off the spine. Another reason that you're doing these things, this balloon breath and focusing on your position, it gives your brain something to do. This is important, to have something to do with your brain. When you are focused on your balloon breath, you are not having anticipatory fear about what could happen, right? You're here, you're doing your work, and you are getting through that contraction until you get to the break, and then you're staying in a place of relaxation in between contractions, whatever that means for you. That could mean if you have a 5-minute break that you're chatting it up with the people that you love. It could mean that you stay internally focused. There are a lot of options that we're going to go over as we add to these techniques. But giving yourself something to focus on other than ouch is a really good thing. If you focus on ouch, it emphasizes the ouch. If you focus on something else, that's what you're emphasizing. Our brains are powerful, as we've talked about. So, and I really encourage practicing these these techniques, this breath and these positions when you're having Braxton Hicks contractions as you lead up to labor. So Braxton Hicks contractions are the warm-up contractions that many women have in the weeks, even months leading up to labor, where you'll just notice your belly sometimes is soft and other times is hard. So a Braxton Hicks contraction happens when your belly is hard. And if you notice that, that can be an interesting time to practice this, only because you're having a similar experience to what you have in labor, where your body is contracting, right? Your uterus is pulling your baby in and you are expanding. So you're working in the opposite direction, trying to give space for everything that needs to happen in the uterus to happen without your abdominal muscles or any tension and fear getting in the way. So this is the opposite of tensing up, right? So being able to practice this gives you that pairing. And also, this is the fourth thing that this practice is helpful for, is you're expanding and not tensing up. So there's no way that you are interfering with everything that's happening on the inside. You're not adding stress, you're not adding worry, you're not adding muscle tension. All of this works together. So I remember being in labor with my first baby and doing this balloon breath and thinking, this is hard. You know, this is way harder than when I was doing Braxton Hicks contractions or when I was just practicing this in general, because now I've got a full-on contraction, you know, moving this way and I'm trying to move that way. I was like, forget this, I'm gonna take a break. So the next contraction, I just said, forget it, I'm just gonna breathe normally. And that lasted for, I don't know, maybe 15 seconds before I went, oh. So while this is a lot of work to do this, wow, is it helping my comfort, right? That little bit of extra space just made me so much more able to manage what was happening in my body. So I encourage you to practice it. It will make you more comfortable, assuming that it does, assuming that this is how your body's wired. So see what it feels like to do these positions and do this breath. And even in pregnancy, sometimes my belly just felt like, oh, this is a lot of pressure. And this breath and having it hang off of my spine just felt like a relief. So another piece that I just want to talk about is the arrival at the hospital. And this is something that will happen in the first stage if you're planning on a hospital birth. And the reason I'm talking about it is that most hospitals, once you get settled in your room, will have you put on a fetal monitor for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, depending on the hospital. There are varied requirements. And here we are talking about expanding your belly and being able to move around. And what most women are given as instructions when they're put on the fetal monitor is to lie on their backs. They're put a band, a pretty tight band is put around your belly that constricts your belly and that's monitoring your heart rate, baby's heart rate, the strength of the contractions, right? The monitoring isn't the problem. It's lying on your back and having a band that constricts you that can make it really uncomfortable. So here are a couple of tricks. You can ask your nurse, caregiver, whoever it is, to make the band a little bit looser, give you a slightly bigger size so it's not as constrictive. And you can ask to be able to be in one of these positions where your belly is hanging off of your spine so that you can stand next to the bed, lean over, you can lay on your side, lean forward a little bit, be on your hands and knees, whatever you're allowed to do so that you can do your balloon breath and get this extra bit of space. As we talked about before, that transition to the hospital can be stressful. And so once you are able to settle down and be in one place and get back to being internally focused, being as comfortable as possible is going to be really helpful. So this will help you be as comfortable as possible instead of your fetal monitoring becoming a catecholamine-inducing event. We do not want that. We want your catecholamines, your stress hormones, to stay low so your endorphins can keep on rising. And as you progress through labor and you have more and more endorphins, you're able to manage the stronger and stronger contractions, and you're working with Mother Nature instead of against her. So these techniques in the first stage will increase your comfort. They will make your labor more manageable and help you get to that second stage. And as I said before, for most mamas, the first stage of labor is the longest phase. And so when you are told you're fully dilated, you know you're in the downward slope, right? You're on your way to having your baby in your arms.